Okay, we'll move to the second item on our agenda. That'll be Ms. Finley.
Good evening, everybody. As you know, the City of Southfield was previously certified as a redevelopment-ready community under the Michigan Suburbs Alliance, and in 2011, the Michigan Economic Development Corporation purchased that program, and they've been going through the process of reevaluating communities. The City of Southfield, along with 6 other communities, were the first 7 to be evaluated, and we're all in the process of having that evaluation done. And so with us today is Michelle Parkenden. Michelle. She's going to present the findings from the report, and then Fred and myself will be able to answer any questions if there are follow-ups. So Michelle.
Good evening. My name is Michelle Parkinen. I'm a planner with the Redevelopment Ready Communities program at the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, and I was part of the team that evaluated the City of Southfield for the RRC program. Okay. So the RRC program evaluations are based on 6 best practices, and our team goes through all of the documentation that was provided by City of Southfield staff. We observed several meetings, went through stakeholder interviews from business owners and developers, and looked at all of the development materials that were provided by the city. And we provide a scorecard for each best practice. Green indicates that the best practice components are being met by the community. Yellow indicates some of the best practice components are in place, but additional action might be required. And then red indicates the best practice component is not present or is outdated. So best practice 1.1 is community plans and public outreach, and we're looking at all of the planning documents. And the City of Southfield has a long history of planning, and the master plan currently meets our best practice criteria, and the city is working on updating the master plan over the next year. It'll be important to identify redevelopment strategies in that update as they are currently in the existing master plan. So we've got green on those 2 evaluation criteria. The governing body has adopted a capital improvements plan. The city has a drafted capital improvements plan, but that needs to be formally adopted and cover the required 6-year timeline that is required in the Michigan Planning Enabling Act. The governing body has adopted a downtown development plan. As we know, the city has downtown development plans, but as the city does not have a traditional downtown, we did not evaluate Southfield on that criteria. And we've got that the governing body has adopted a corridor improvement plan.
Apparently,
is this the old?
Apparently this is the old plan.
Okay, that's okay. You're green on that. The city has adopted corridor improvement strategies and plans, so that is green. Okay, and then the second best practice criteria under best practice 1 is public participation. So under the best practices, we require that a public participation plan be adopted. And that's identifying stakeholders and outlining goals for public participation and seeing what techniques have worked for the city and how are you going to go about achieving public input. And Southfield has gone above and beyond as far as achieving public input and reaching out to its citizens and business owners. We are just looking for that to be formalized in a plan. Okay. Best practice 2 is zoning policy and regulations, and as you can see, all green for the city. The city has adopted a zoning ordinance that reflects the master plan. There are some priority districts where the zoning encourages the type of development that is outlined in the master plan. There are flexible zoning techniques that allow for infill development. There are some flexible parking strategies. We do suggest adding additional graphics and illustrations just to improve the user experience, but all of the best practice criteria are being met. For the development review process, best practice 3.1 is the site plan review policy, and this is correct. We're just looking for some of the guide to development information to be added to the city's website. We're looking for one area on the website where all development materials are located, so it's easier for residents and developers to find that just at the drop of a hat. The community tracks development projects. You're annually reviewing your fee schedule. Your zoning ordinance clearly documents the process, so you're doing all of those things very well. For the site plan review process, Southfield obviously has qualified intake staff and a clearly documented internal review policy, really working through joint departmental meetings to get input from all involved parties and really trying to make that a smooth process. You're encouraging developers to seek input before projects start and getting that important citizen input before those projects are getting underway. Again, engaging in the site plan reviews, and where we gave yellow is suggesting that the city would consider revising the site plan review process to maybe lessen the number of meetings that are required to get those site plans approved. And you're annually reviewing the successes and challenges with the site plan review procedures. On education and training, we've got all green. Southfield has a dedicated source of funding for training for elected and appointed officials as well as staff. You're identifying the training needs, and when you're tracking that attendance, you're identifying gaps in training and setting those trainings up where needed. Board and committee members are encouraged to attend trainings, and you're conducting annual joint meetings to discuss development issues, which we think are very important. For education and training, for recruitment and orientation, this is up to date as well. We're looking for Southfield to set expectations for boards and commission positions. So right now you're accepting resumes and letters of interest for board and committee positions. We're looking to have perhaps an application or at least a listing of desired qualifications for positions, and maybe giving a brief explanation about what each board and committee is all about, what the duties are, and developing an ethics policy. And then we're also asking that you provide a hard copy orientation packet to council members and new ZBA members, so they have all of that development information at their fingertips. Okay, this has been updated, let's see, yes. Okay, so best practice 5 is the redevelopment ready site. And for this best practice, we're asking communities to identify and prioritize redevelopment sites. And we've actually got all green on this, the second one. The community forms a steering committee for prioritized redevelopment sites. Your economic development committee serves that role by discussing and prioritizing those sites, so that is a green right now. That steering committee is gathering that background information to provide to developers. Clearly, city has gone above and beyond visioning some of those sites and has noted what resources are available for those sites. We're just looking for a more detailed property information package to be developed for at least your top priority sites. So we're looking for all of the possible background information rather than just like a one-page sheet. And then actively marketing those sites as well. For community prosperity, economic strategies is the first best practice. Southfield has adopted economic development strategies as part of the master plan, and the Economic Development Committee is regularly reviewing and discussing those economic development strategies. So we just ask when you go through your master plan update that be continued and to continually look at those. And final best practice, marketing and promotion. The community has developed a marketing strategy. We're just looking at how a community evaluates or markets and promotes itself. So we're just asking for this, gave yellow, that Southfield Community Relations Department, DDA, and outside marketing firm coordinate future marketing efforts to enhance Southfield's image as a desirable place to live. And the marketing strategy should also focus on how those redevelopment sites are going to be promoted and marketed. So next steps for Southfield. We ask that within 30 days, council adopt a resolution indicating that you are ready to proceed with Redevelopment Ready Communities program. The city will work to implement the actions needed to meet those best practice criteria. We'll also provide quarterly progress reports that staff will fill out just to update us on if there's new documentation that might help the city meet those criteria. And then the last step is certification. So if you have any questions.
Before you move forward, Michelle, we
Sure.
should need your business address.
Oh, sure. It's 300 North Washington Square, Lansing, Michigan.
Thank you. Any questions?
Michelle, I guess when it says best practice 6.2, I don't know is that referring to something that I'm not aware of, or I'm on page best practices, findings best practice 6.2, marketing and promotion.
Mm-hmm.
Well, who sets the standard of marketing and promotion? To what extent? Is it by the amount that is spent, the amount you cover, programs in place? How do you rate those, in other words?
We're looking at how a community is marketing and promoting itself and coordinating with other entities in that marketing and promotion, so your DDA, Chamber of Commerce. We're not looking at how much you spend, but I have no idea how much the city
So
spends on.
when you work with Chamber of Commerce and Southfield Chamber of Commerce and you have public hearings at least twice a month. When we have, for example, Evergreen Road development, we held a hearing just to let people know what's happening, plus everybody in the vicinity has got a note, business community as well as those who live here. And we did Lasher Road, we did the same thing. So I just wonder to what extent are you marketing these things?
I think what the RRC program is looking for the city to formalize some of our documents on all the activities that we're currently doing. So in terms of the items that were yellow or red, my department, along with planning and community relations, we're working just to formalize all the good things that we're currently doing already. So when it talks about internal marketing plan, we currently have a process and things that we're doing, but we're just formalizing it and putting it into a document. So all the things that we're talking about.
What I'm asking is that, I have a businessman who he put a Farmington Hills thing out. I don't even know what I did with it. Oh, here it is. He gave me this at a meeting and said, why don't you do something like this? So I'm taking him this tomorrow.
Right.
Now, this is all marketing, Southfield business, place to call home. I mean, calendars, everything's mailed out to everybody. This is mailed out to everybody. So, and I'm just wondering, trying to establish a linkage to the public. I think that Southfield does a good job. Total Living Commission meets, and the mayor just had a meeting with the people, residents. Then we just had all the subdivisions in, both for barbecue, and then we had them here on a program. So I guess I just know what we do, and I'm just wondering at what level are your expectation is to get not a green on this. That's what I mean, I don't know how to get there.
Again, it's just we'll be green once we put the document together that highlights all the things that we're doing. So we just need to put together a written plan internally.
Well, do we have time to do this?
Yes, this is something that I will be working on. I've already been gathering the information. I've been working with Terry and with Michael. Manning from Community Relations, and together we're going to address all these items just to formalize what we're currently doing. We're planning on creating a spot on our website called Southfield, Destination Southfield, which will house, we have a package that we put together for some of our larger new tenants that just moved in that speak to all the great things to do around the city. That will be on there as well for development, you know, how to go about, even though we have an outstanding website that's very clear to most users, we're going to have a special section that's just going to bring everything together.
Yeah, we have, Shelley, and then we have the 8 Mile Road Association, that does all the 8 Mile Road, you know, marketing that, and you just see tonight, Kamal is here, we're marketing that. I mean, I don't really, I guess I'm just trying to figure out how we're...
I think we should have everything
To what
wrapped up.
extent? I'd like to know how you're graded, because I think we do a great
Jennifer,
job.
you want to come in?
Give us your business.
Sure.
We'll be hot about it.
Jennifer Richtring, 300 North Washington Square, Lansing, Michigan, 48913. I work with Michelle and oversee the Redevelopment Ready Communities program, and really this is about looking at what marketing efforts you already have and where are you concentrating your efforts and your strategies. Are there different groups in the city doing different things or marketing the same thing, and how are you working together? Another way to think about this when it comes to even the public participation is kind of like succession planning. Shelley and the other folks here are doing great things, but what if one of them is to win the lotto tomorrow, and we can, you know, can business as usual in Southfield go on, or do you need to stop and think about what was that person doing, or how did they do it? We're looking for you to kind of internally document some of these things so that you can continue business as usual and be successful even when you have turnover.
For example, again, you know, the city center.
Right, you have
OMB,
marketing for City Center, you have the DDA doing things, you have the chamber doing things, and we just want to, yep, and we're just looking to see how you're coordinating your efforts.
Yeah. I just think we do an exceptional job for the money that we have to spend. I mean, that has to be taken into consideration. You send a message back to the governor to send us their money back. You know.
All right.
But anyway, I went all green. Yeah.
I agree. Councilman Frazier.
Yes, on the boards and commissions, if I interpret that what you've written down here correctly, said the city should revise the boards and commission application to list general responsibilities of each board and committee and experience occurred. Today we have a generic form that has a list of all of the different boards and commissions that people can apply for. If we do what you say, it sounds like we have to have an individual form for every one of the boards. Or else, how do we write down?
I just want to add one thing. When we were submitting all the documentation, the city was going through the election process, and we had some staff that retired, so it was hard for us to gather all the data and information that we needed to submit to the RRC program during their reevaluation. And we wanted to have this meeting and then gather up a little bit more information and resubmit it. The clerk's office supplied us with all the definitions of all the boards and commissions. Once we submit all that information back to the committee, that'll be green. We currently have all of those things in place. So we wanted to have the presentation come forward and clean up a couple of extra items that we had to submit and resubmit everything at once.
And we actually have a nice template of a sample form. It's a one-page application with the back page. Kind of has just a couple sentences on each board and commission.
And if you already have it, and you can submit it with your first progress report, and then if that criteria is being met, then that color will change to green.
Well, the form, we'd have to redesign the form. Even if we did what you suggested with a template of a sentence or two of each board, we don't have room now for all the boards and commissions on it. So,
Yeah, and you know, your major committees or commissions, I mean, you want to set some expectations so when someone is applying, they know what they're getting themselves into, and they know what's expected of them if they were to get that appointment or seat.
they should be able to go online and read about the boards and commissions, because we allow people to apply for up to 3 different boards and commissions. And you know, I don't wanna make it any more complicated. It sounds here like you're gonna complicate the issue that there are some things that we need to take now.
And we don't want to make things, or have the city have to make things any more complicated. As long as the city can demonstrate how the evaluation criteria is being met, you can meet that how you see fit. You just have to tell us how you're meeting it.
Okay.
We
I
do
would like to mention that we also, before we put a person on the board, we have a committee that interviews each one of them
Right.
Yeah,
as well, so.
And we did note that in the report.
yeah. It does say that we do interview people.
And
You know, this, I just had that home today.
I don't think this was mentioned before, but it's worth saying, we currently do not have any certified communities. So as you can tell from your report, you had a couple of yellows, you're very close to it. As of right now, with the new statewide program, we don't have a certified community, so you're not far off yet.
I'm not debating that point. What the point I'm saying is that it ought to be easy enough for us to do. And what I read here, it sounds like it's going to complicate our process. I'm not worried that we're ready or not ready, but I just don't want to make it more complicated.
Yeah, no, we don't want to make things more complicated.
Right. We want this to be a very straightforward process, and we want things to be extremely transparent. That's one of the goals of the program, so the less complicated, the better.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, Councilman,
Yeah, if we're certified, if we're meeting the criteria, does this help us score higher on the EVIP for the governor's dashboard?
Not currently at this time.
I think it should be tied to it, you know, if they're part and parcel to one another, we're doing all the things right, I would like to see that we get money for it.
How, you should share.
If a collaborative effort in marketing and public relations were to come out of it, we would list that as a collaborative effort.
Yeah.
If we were part of a regional group
I-
and
I-
promoting
yeah.
the affordability of our housing stock, or the quality of life, if we were doing something with, you know, Ann Arbor, Macomb, that would be something we would include in that report.
Okay. My recommendation is, you know, if this program expands and if cities actually get certified, that hopefully that EVIP can be tied into it. Because the communities that are doing it right should be acknowledged for it, and as my colleague said, should get the money due to those communities to fully succeed.
Councilwoman Seaman.
Yeah, I'm kind of just puzzled about why is it important that anybody be certified, and who are you to tell the whole community? You know, I'm saying justify your reason for being. Who are you to tell us why we are important or what we're doing right? Where did all this come from? And you're kind of setting everybody up and saying, we have to meet your standards. We have standards too, but we have to meet your standards. And what?
So back under Governor Granholm and the Michigan Land Use Leadership Council, that she brought together lots of different experts in land use and government and private and public sector. And there was a specific recommendation in that report, was in Chapter 4, that said the private and public sector come together in consultation and develop a set of redevelopment readiness standards. And originally this program was put together to kind of balance brownfield development in our urban cores and greenfield sprawl development. And so that was originally the intent of the program when it was put together under and the Michigan Suburbs Alliance actually took that recommendation and initiated it in their member communities, strictly here in Southeast Michigan. We saw the benefit at the MEDC in MSHDA, who helped purchase the program to take it statewide for other communities, coming private and public sectors. So the private sector is getting what they need, the public sector is still getting what they need from developers and real estate. We changed the best practices. We spent about 8 months working on those from, if any of you were around the previous program. And we took those standards kind of back to the basics. One of the things we did, are you in compliance with some of our state laws? Because we do have limited funds at the state, and why should we be spending money in communities that are not in compliance with state laws? So that is one reason. Two is we're trying to proactively market to the private sector the communities that are already doing good things. And so while we're evaluating communities, we spend a lot of time working with developers, because what is what's the good of the certification if the private sector does not understand what that means? And so that's another major component that we use.
I remember when it was, when the talk was about sort of controlling sprawl. I remember that very clearly, but I just wondered because it seems like you're the authority and everybody has to come under your umbrella to be considered legitimate.
There are the criteria that you have to hit. We have expectations of how we look to see if you're hitting those criteria, but really it's on the community to show us or tell us how they're hitting the criteria.
Well, if it comes to spending government money, I mean, that makes sense to me, if it's relating to that, but just to have somebody set up and say, all of these communities have to meet our standards. We have standards too, and they're pretty high.
Yes, and I understand. We're just trying to make sure that communities, that we're removing barriers when it comes to redevelopment, and that we're being as transparent, fair, and efficient as well. And that's where the standards were set up around.
I understand. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Council will move for consensus to proceed to adopt the resolution with the understanding that administration will work on the outstanding items and come back to us. Councilman?
Yes.
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 And I say yes as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.